Hello again, what's up YouTube world? It's your girl Dana Monet with another installment of The Voice Season 9 recap, and we are wrapping up the knockout rounds, so that means we're going to be seeing less of Rihanna on The Voice. But it's okay because we're finally about to get into the live playoffs next week, and I am so excited because it's live, we don't know what's going to happen, and we can really separate the strong from the weak and see who can really cut it. So I'm really excited. But without any further ado, let's just get into it. The last night of the knockouts, personally for me, was a little bit underwhelming. There wasn't really any real standouts. And also to top it off, my hometown girl from Delaware, Nadjah Nichole, did not advance. So needless to say, I was a little bit disappointed with Monday Night's show. And again, I don't watch those recap shows that they do. I don't even know why they do them. So, I just didn't watch it. You can go on YouTube for that. I don't understand. And they have behind the scenes stuff on YouTube. You should check out those videos behind the scenes. I think that India and Hannah from last season were talking to the contestants, doing funny things, making funny jokes. In seasons past, I think Preston Pohl did it. Christina Grimmie just asked funny, silly, stupid questions of the contestants. So that's on YouTube, on the Voice channel. So take a look at that if you haven't already. But these knockouts have really shooken up and messed up my whole Voice app, teams, everything is all over the place. So we're gonna go ahead and get into it. The first knockout was Shelby versus James, and Shelby sang, trying to look at my notes, Jesus Take the Wheel, and James sang Sure Be Cool If You Did. Should be cool if you did. To be truthfully honest, I think they mentioned James's name first. I forgot him. I was like, what is that dude's name? So, he was forgettable. I felt that Shelby was a little pitchy on the lower notes, but she does have a nice voice and she does have good power. Her pitch comes out better on the higher notes. I'm trying to tell you, these singers in these competition shows, the low notes don't always happen all the time. It wasn't really necessarily anything special about that performance, but it was a nice performance. She mentioned that this was the first time that she sang a country song in the show, and that's her genre. But I personally liked some of the other stuff that, she's done, but I don't think that that was the best song for her to sing. Now with James, there was nothing special about his voice. It seemed pretty boring. It seems like they cut his performance short, like they knew he was gonna go home. He was pretty much bland to me. Blake said something along the lines of he did a laid back song and something about how he was trying to flip it and make it seem like it was a good compliment, but it was really a bad compliment, saying that you did too much of a laid back song. So, Shelby wins. Moving right along here. Team Pharrell. And this was Mark versus Sienna. And I was pretty nervous with Mark singing Stand By Me, especially when the contestants get to pick their own songs. So, it just didn't seem like him. It just didn't seem like what he was kind of promoting about himself. I like when he does stuff that's like funky, and has a groove. Unless he was going to go up there and do the bachata, then Stand By Me, no, we're not doing that song. And he was trying hard to make something happen with the song that wasn't really happening. Like, he was moving all over the place and it just wasn't coming across the way that I would have liked it to. But again, I didn't like the song choice for him anyway. So hopefully he does better going forward. And Sienna, I was getting a little nervous because, Pharrell does like the kids. But although she's very precise with pronunciation, and I always understand what she's saying, which is really good, and her attitude is there, I'm not feeling her voice. And during her performance, she had some nerves and some pitch problems and things like that. And Jackie Lee sang the song a couple seasons ago on her audition and blew it out of the water. So I was definitely with Mark. To me, Sienna proved what I knew from the very beginning, and everybody thought, oh, she's so cute with this big voice. her voice is just simply not strong enough. Like, she has stage presence and she has, charisma, and everything like that. But when it gets down to it with the voice, she's still very, very amateur. And I've seen people her age on this competition that have displayed not being amateur. So if you're 15, 16 years old, you're definitely capable of being amazing. Vocally, she just wasn't amazing. And I think that, Pharrell made the right choice in choosing Mark. He's more developed of an artist. And given the right songs, he will be able to deliver, I feel. And I've been saying this since his blind audition. I think that he should make the lives, and he is. So moving right along. To Team Gwen, and this was Jeffrey versus Coda. And Jeffrey sang Turning Tables and Coda sang Barracuda. Both songs I like. Jeffrey Turning Tables, I was not feeling him in the blind auditions. I think he sang Sam Smith. To me, he didn't have enough nuance to the song. He was like singing too hard. But this time on the Turning Tables, I was really like, wow, his tone is amazing. And Rihanna said something about a cross between Luther and Sam Smith, and I was like, okay. And Gwen really shouldn't be singing at all, just saying. But he does have a little grit in his voice, and he did a little falsetto note at the end that I felt wasn't needed, but he did hit it. So he grew on me, and I grew to like him. Coda singing Barracuda. It's very easy to go off the rails with that song, and I felt like she was kind of throwing away the end notes. But I felt like Gina from American Idol and Kat Perkins from a couple seasons ago of The Voice did the song a lot better. During her performance, I mean, she just didn't nail it. She was all over the place, and like I said, it's easy to go off the rails, and she did, and it just didn't work for her. Sorry, Coda. Sorry. I did like her audition, though. So Gwen made the right decision by picking Jeffrey. And then moving on to Team Blake, this was kind of my sad moment. Nadjah Nichole versus Emily Ann. It's very interesting that they both kind of use their first and middle name as their stage name. So I kind of pretty much knew that Emily was going to win this knockout unless she either fell flat on her face or Nadjah just totally blew it out the water. And none of those things happened. Emily sang Cowboy Take Me Away, and Nadjah sang A Woman's Worth. I thought that Emily had a very competent vocal during the knockout. Her rehearsal was a little shaky to me, but I feel like it wasn't anything special. It was just like a typical country girl performance. She hit all her notes when she did it in the knockouts, but she was definitely giving me deja vu with the whole Danielle Bradbury thing, and a couple people online were posting that, and Blake is he's trying to take her all the way, most definitely. With Nadjah singing A Woman's Worth, Sonic sang it last season on The Voice and absolutely killed it in the knockouts. And somebody said it in the blogs. Vocally, they're pretty much on par. Sonic just kind of had a little bit more swagger. And I don't know, I'm thinking, just because I saw Nadjah perform in concert and do a lot of interesting songs, interesting covers when she was there, I'm just thinking that whatever song that she may have wanted to do wasn't cleared, because I don't think that A Woman's Worth was her very first choice. So I knew there wasn't going to be a steal. She did up her stage presence. I thought the high notes were nice, and the dip to low, she makes a lot of nice choices. She did a lot with the falsetto, and I think that it might have been a tad bit overbaked, but overall it was a nice performance. It wasn't enough to get her to the next level. I just knew that Blake wasn't going to pick her. I just knew he put her up against his main country girl, so I knew that wasn't going to happen. And there was one montage in the knockouts, and it was on Blake's team, and somebody named Zach won. I don't even know who he was against. I didn't know they do montages in the knockouts, so Zach won that. So obviously it didn't seem like I was missing much. Then we had Team Pharrell, and we had Evan versus Tim. Evan sang Dare You to Move, and Tim sang Torn. I kind of wish Evan chose something more soulful, but he did still have a nice tone. I did see some nerves and saw his hands shaking during his performance, but he did have a nice high note, but I wasn't crazy about the song. Tim, he kind of sounded a mess to me in the rehearsal with Torn. I don't like people singing that song in competition settings. he does have an interesting tone, but something about his tone is a miss for me. He's kind of flat in terms of delivery, and he kind of looked defeated, like he knew he lost. So that was pretty much evident, and Evan won. Um, and then, this was the last knockout for the night, and we already knew that there was going to be a steal. So we already know that that's about to happen because they tease it the entire episode and, for the entire week. So we have Team Gwen, Regina versus Riley. And of course, she pairs them together because those are both for steals. Not that they have anything else in common, but that's how they do it on these shows. Regina sang Midnight Train to Georgia and Riley sang EXO. I was a little iffy about Regina singing Midnight Train to Georgia because when you are like an older, female R&B artist and you're picking like an old school song, it doesn't necessarily show people that you can be current and that you can be on the radio today and stuff like that. But, she hit every note. She sounded great. She did a lot of variations with, the melody and stuff like that. So you can't really take that away from her. Riley singing EXO was an interesting choice. She has an interesting voice in a good way, unlike Tim. She didn't sound like Beyonce, so it was working. She did this thing with when she pronounced you, she would go like, yo, and I don't like when people do that. But she did change it up. I think it's because her voice is so different from Beyonce and she wasn't trying to sound like her. I think Regina winning was the right choice, but since we knew that the steal was going to happen, it happened. But knowing that Riley ended up being stolen, and I think that she was good, for what she did, but knowing that ended up being Pharrell's final steal, I wish they had kind of saved it for Nadjah. And obviously I'm being biased because, she's my hometown girl, but she was also really good to me anyway. So, that's how that works. So that's the end of the knockouts, and we have all of our teams going into the playoffs. And I'm just going to briefly touch on where the teams are at in terms of the playoffs and who I think should advance. So for Team Adam, we have Amy, Blaine, Jordan, Keith, and Shelby. The people I think who should advance based off of, what I've seen so far in the blinds, battles, and knockouts, I think it should be Amy, Jordan, and Shelby. Done deal. On Team Blake, we have Barrett, Emily Ann, Yvonne, Morgan, and Zach. Based off of what I've seen in the blinds, the battles, and the knockouts, Emily Ann, Yvonne, Morgan. Done. All girls. Although I do think it's a possibility that Barrett could sneak in there, but I think that Emily Ann, Yvonne, and Morgan are kind of Blake's money ticket. And Yvonne is my favorite out of that group. Team Gwen, we have Brayden, Jeffrey, Corinne, Regina, and Victor. Now, Gwen actually has a really, really great team. I think that she has one of the strongest teams. So personally, I think Jeffrey, Regina, and Victor, although Gwen has a certain thing for Corinne and also Brayden, but honestly, I think Brayden is definitely out. Corinne could possibly sneak in there. But I think if I were choosing, I would choose Jeffrey, Regina, and Victor. Corinne could possibly take Regina's spot. And we have Team Pharrell. We have Darius, Evan, Maddie, Mark, and Riley. So who I would pick are Darius, Maddie, and Mark. But I think that Evan has a chance, and Riley. This team, it really depends on what they do in the playoffs. But I think that Darius, Maddie, and Mark have been stronger overall. Evan did have a really good blind, but I wasn't crazy about his battle and his knockout. Riley kind of just grew on me with her last song. So I feel like Darius, Maddie, and Mark kind of had a better body of work. And although Mark didn't do well in the knockouts to me, I think his blind and his battle round were superb. And I don't remember Maddie from the blinds or the battles, but her knockout round was superb. So she's there for me. So that's it for the knockout rounds. And until next week in the lives, I will see ya. Bye.